Cinestra and River.
Hey guys, it's Cinestra and River again. I'm Cinestra, and this is River.
Hi.
Welcome to the one and only set review of Commander Legends. That's right, we did it first. Today we're going to be talking about our totally unique top 8 cards that are impacting the cEDH meta the most. So let's get right into it.
Honorable mentions. We have the completed cycle of Battle Bond duels. We'll see probably play in like basically every deck in their colors. Great lands. Then you have basically all of the partners we don't have in the actual set review. All of them are pretty cool, do different things. Honorable mentions would go to like Sakashima, you can partner him with Chimna. Krark, you can partner him with Silas for like some interesting storm double or nothing action. Mayara is the first black partner. We can partner with Akiri, giving us access to a companion Lotus in a Mardu shell. And Malcolm VL Smasher is an interesting pirate combo with Glinthoof Buccaneer.
Okay. So yeah, after our honorable mentions, let's get right into it. So at the number 8 slot, we have Dargo, the Shipwrecker. He's 6 colors and 1 red mana for a legendary creature, Giant Pirate. And it reads, as an additional cost to cast this spell, you may sacrifice any number of artifacts and or creatures. This spell costs 2 less to cast for each permanent sacrifice this way, and 2 less to cast for each other artifact or creature you sacrifice this turn. It has trample, and has partner, and is a 7/5.
So probably the most interesting design in the whole set, at least in my opinion. It's essentially a red Taziger. You usually end up using only 1 red mana to cast it. There's some great synergy with Eldritch Evolution and Birthing Pod, which allows you to drop a Razaketh into field. And since the card actually remembers all its earlier sacrifices of itself, you can actually sack it to Razaketh and keep casting it for 1 red mana. And you get to go pretty crazy with stuff like Glimpse of Nature and Phyrexian Altar. Burnt Offering gives you 7 mana, and the greater good usually means you win the game.
Yeah, I mean, 1 mana, draw 7, discard 3 is amazing.
Yeah. Gonna be probably helming a John deck with like a Rayhan or Ikra Shiriki as the other partner, because the black gives you the Razaketh and green gives you those creature payouts of greater good, Glimpse of Nature. Pretty interesting card and commander.
In the number 7 slot, we have Jeska, Thrice Reborn. She costs 2 colors and a red, and she's a legendary planeswalker, Jeska. Jeska, Thrice Reborn, enters the battlefield with a loyalty counter on it for each time you've cast a commander from the command zone this game. She has a 0 ability that says, choose target creature until your next turn. If that creature would deal combat damage to one of your opponents, it deals triple that damage to that player instead. And it also has a -X that says Jeska deals X damage to each of up to 3 targets. Jeska, Thrice Reborn, can be your commander, and she has partner.
So the good thing about this card is that it partners with a lot of stuff, and the 0 ability actually makes your other partner slap real hard.
Yeah.
The bad thing is that I think she's kind of lame. I don't think planeswalkers are that great as commanders, and partner planeswalkers is like not like great. And now you have like this random toolbox answer that just kills hate bears on its own and is an infinite mana outlet, and so kinda ends up like being an easy include in a lot of decks that before had access to like worse commanders. For example, in Mad Farm you used to play Tymna and Bruce, but now you just replace Bruce with this, and yeah, you have an infinite outlet.
It adds a lot to the deck because now you can be probably running like Barman stuff in your deck and probably like Rogorge Dragon stuff. I'm really torn about this because I actually do like planeswalkers as commanders, but I really don't like partner. I really don't like partner. So I think she's one of the more interesting ones because she's an infinite mana outlet, so she can add that to your game. And I actually do like this combat matters stuff because dealing triple the damage sounds pretty funny. But yeah. Let's move on to number 6. We have Wheel of Misfortune. All right, so Wheel of Misfortune is 2 colors and a red for a sorcery that says each player secretly chooses a number 0 or greater. Then all players reveal those numbers simultaneously and determine the highest and lowest numbers revealed this way. Wheel of Misfortune deals damage equal to the number to the highest number to each player who chose that number. Each player who didn't choose the lowest number discards their hand, then draws 7 cards.
It's almost like Wheel of Fortune. And wheels are good. Even though this probably is like the worst 3-mana wheel. Because your opponent can always choose 0 and thus never having to, discard their hand if they think their hand is particularly good. But most wheels are actually not intended to mess with your opponents. You're actually more interested in refueling your own hand after like getting out your ramp pieces. And so just having an extra wheel in your deck increases the consistency of you getting a fast mana into wheel hand. Yeah, it's pretty funny with Villis though. You can choose the high number and like draw lots of cards.
Yeah, I think you make a great point. Like I think in a lot of these Turbo Nods decks, a lot of them they like to just like basically put out a bunch of fast mana and then they want to pay off. And one of the best payoffs you can have is a wheel because it just draws you so many cards. Obviously, it'd be great to disrupt your opponents too because making them discard their hand is great. But this just increases the density of just you being able to have a payoff in your hand or something like that. It doesn't really work with Notion Thief or Hull Breacher, but because people can just choose 0 and not draw any cards. But I really don't think it matters. I think the most important part is you get to draw the 7 cards.
Sometimes you get burned playing this card. Like I've already heard people playing games and then like naming 16 and still being the lowest bidder for some reason, and like you don't get the new hand. But at some point a 3-mana deal 20 damage to each opponent is probably good enough.
You definitely got to know your play group to like use this card properly. But once you do, it's probably pretty
deploy
good.
that Chrome and go to town.
Yeah. Coming in at number 5, we have Opposition Agent, which is 2 colorless and a black, who's a creature human rogue. It has flash. It says you control your opponents while they're searching their libraries, and while an opponent is searching their library, they exile each card they find. You may play those cards as long as they remain exiled, and you may spend mana as though it were mana of any color to cast them. Interestingly, you can actually see your opponent's hands while you're searching your opponent's library, so kind of actually has a Gitaxian Probe effect to it too.
Yeah, this card is great. A lot of people probably have it higher on their lists. And make no mistake, I think this card actually should see a play in every black CEDH deck there is.
Agree.
The design is kind of lame in that way. You're basically not making any sacrifices. You just add this to your deck. People play fetch lands, people play tutors in 100 card singleton formats. And this is better than Stranglehold. It's cheaper, it's a creature, and then you just have the gotcha element of somebody casting stuff like, I don't know, Intuition, and you join 3 cards. People probably shouldn't sandbag this super hard. I think if nobody casts a tutor into it, you should probably, if you have the mana available, just cast it at the end of turn, because it's still a great stacks piece. It actually just prevents your opponent from casting tutors at all. And I think it's just not gonna be your number 1 because usually the tutors come out before Agent is able to come out, and even if you get to yoink 1 card, it doesn't necessarily mean that you like automatically win the game. But it is a hell of a strong effect, and probably will increase the amount of interaction for creatures in decks.
Yeah, I agree. I think being a creature with flash is a little bit annoying because a lot of decks have like slim counter magic that doesn't hit creatures nowadays, and even if you have a bounce spell, it might not be super effective because they can, they can just flash them out again.
Yeah,
but
they have enough mana.
Yeah, costing 3 mana does kind of put a damper on that. Obviously, I think everyone's talked about it. You can do turn 1. Like if anyone has any black mana up, they can just do Dark Ritual into Opposition Agent. That's kind of meaty, but I obviously don't think you just play around that all the time. If they have it, they have it, right?
Yeah. And I think it's often incorrect to actively try to play around it. If they have it, they have it.
I kind of agree. I feel like there's been a little bit of an overreaction to the card. I think people have been suggesting cut things like Intuition or the fetch lands from Timnakrom, and obviously this card's like really good against Intuition, but I think that like removing is somewhat overboard. I think Opposition Agent is just like basically just another point of interaction against your win con, and I don't think that means you take out Intuition. Like, I guess for me, for an example, is like Peer into the Abyss has been proven to me to be like a really strong card that I've been playing a lot recently and been winning me games, but I'm not taking it out just because people have Deflecting Swat nowadays. I mean, Deflecting Swat is a huge blowout, but it's just like another card I have to be aware of when I'm trying to resolve Peer into the Abyss. All right, so let's go into number 4. We have a Hull Breacher. Hull Breacher is 2 colorless and a blue for a creature Merfolk Pirate. And it has Flash and says, if an opponent would draw a card except the first one they draw in each of their draw steps, instead you create a treasure token. And it's a 3/2.
Yeah, everybody went crazy over Opposition Agent, and by the time Hull Breacher was revealed, everybody's already like exhausted, and you know it raised like way less waves than the Agent did. But I actually think this card is just better. Matter of the fact is that people do draw more cards than Tutor, and you know, I used to try to find excuses to play Narset in my decks because I play in like a heavy wheel meta, but Narset had multiple shortcomings, being hard to cast at 1 blue. You could kill it with like Chrome Beats and other creatures. And like the only thing Narset actually did was preventing extra card draw. This card is just better in every aspect. Now you get treasures if they try to draw cards, and this card is flash, so you can actually flash this in response to a wheel. They normally wouldn't try to wheel against a Narset on board. This card is just it's cheaper than Ocean Thief. You cut one card source, and sometimes this is actually just better than Ocean Thief. Like, this will give you a very significant amount of treasures if it sticks to the board. And it's even a combo piece with Underworld Breach and wheel effects, because now you can just keep recasting the wheel. You get a new hand, and you get 21 treasures, and your opponents get nothing.
Yeah, I mean, I've been kind of liking it a lot more, even more than Notion Thief, just because it's way more castable. I think it's actually just, it's a very big difference holding out 4 mana for someone's wheel versus like 3 mana. And obviously, it's just a much better stacks piece than Narset. I think the Breach, Hull Breacher, and the wheel is going to be a combo. It's probably going to be done pretty, like, you know, it's going to be in a lot of decks. But I think I still probably prefer Breach, Freeze, and LED, just because assembling Breach, Hull Breacher, and wheel, to me, that's like a lot of mana. But one of the beauties about Breach, Freeze, and LED was it's not a lot of mana to actually start going. You just got to cast the Breach, then you have LED, and then you can just cast Freeze from your graveyard. That's very, very elegant. It doesn't cost a lot of mana. Whereas like Breach, Hull Breacher, and wheel, it's like 8 mana or something like that. That's like a lot more mana to start up with.
And also, like, it's pretty, if you have Hull Breacher and Intuition in your hand, you get to like somebody like cast a card draw spell. So instead of flashing in the Intuition at the end of turn, you just, in response to the card draw spell, you flashing Hull Breacher. Now you get the treasures. You can like Intuition, like, you know, right away, or like do it in your next turn, and then like instead of going for the Brain Freeze piles, you can just get a Sevine's Underworld Breach and like a wheel. And
that's very true. That's very, very true. Yeah.
Well, I think it's great. Like, a good card should be played in almost any blue deck. I don't like that, you know, it's one of these extremely strong push cards given to blue instead of like white or some other colors.
This definitely feels like a very white
card.
And
like nowadays, it's like, if somebody has 3 mana open, do they have Opposition Agent? Do they have Hull Breacher? Do they have just Intuition? It's like you can't play around everything, and you kind of just have to jam sometimes, and it's gonna cause some feels Batmans when you play a Brainstorm and they just Hull Breacher you in response and kind of feel miserable.
A lot of my friends that like, they don't like playing partners, they don't like playing Turbonaut stuff. They like to play like these very grindy kind of games like Tactile or Pure and Toothy. Like, I don't know. I feel like Hull Breacher just kind of puts a damper on like all these very grindy a lot of the grindy commander-centric strategies that just want to draw cards because someone just puts it down. They just can't do anything anymore, right? Like, the best thing to do through this thing is sometimes just like Nas or like, just do it any other kind of win condition other than grinding. And I don't know. I'm just not a huge fan of pushing away from that grind direction.
Between this and Opposition Agent, we're probably going to see some extra creature removals just to like handle these two problematic 3-1 flash
definitely.
Creatures. That should have been white.
All right, so let's move on to our number 3 card called Jeska's Will. It's 2 colors and a red for a sorcery. It says choose one. If you control a commander as you cast the spell, you may choose both. The first one says add red for each card in target opponent's hand, and the second one says exile the top 3 cards of your library. You may play them this turn.
Better than Jeska herself. Basically, this is the only ritual that can like rival Dockside in terms of mana production. So somebody has a full hand, you make 7 mana. It's just like 2 mana more than Seething Song would make. So like that's already great. Like 3 mana makes 7 red mana. And sometimes you even make more because you can actually feed people's remoras and Ristic studies and like kind of help yourself. This card does make you more interested in colorless and big mana payoffs because getting like 7 or 6 plus red mana, you probably can't cast your whole hand with just that red mana. So decks are probably gonna look into some extra ways of like spending that red mana. It's obviously pretty good, like you get to cast signets with that mana. But like something like even Mizzix's Mastery might be interesting in the future, just because you could it's pretty trivial overloading it after Jeska's Will, and you can actually just, when you overload it, you get to cast Jeska's Will again and make more mana, and like kind of go off. And like if you have your commander out, like it's actually like pretty significant, essentially drawing 3 or 6 extra cards. So you usually wanna pair this with a commander, although I think it's still playable even if your commander isn't out. You usually just use it for mana in those situations. Obviously good with top deck tutors, so like casting a Imperial Seal and then follow up with Jeska's Will, you usually get something that you can cast with Jeska's Will then. Yeah. The cheaper your commander is, the better this card is.
Yeah. So obviously that's something that we're going to mention later on is Rograk. It's just like amazing with this card. Something I'm really unsure about that I'll probably have to do a lot of playtesting with is like, I think that this card has obviously like a really high ceiling. Like, it could be 3 mana, literally make 7 mana, draw 3, right? But I'm a little unsure about how good it can be with some of the more commander agnostic lists, like maybe even like Timna Krom, at least for one of my lists. I'm really unsure about like, do I really need a Seething Song, and how often am I going to be able to like see this card and be able to do both modes, or is it worth it just to have like even just to make the 7 mana, right? Because it's a little bit rough, I think, because something like Dockside that's 2 mana, right? It goes from 2 mana to like a bunch of other mana which you can utilize, right? But Jeska's Will is 3 mana, and sometimes at that mana cost you want to be having your payoff, right? Like you might want to have like a Wheel, a Ristic Study. So maybe at 3 mana it could be a little rough to have like, you just go from 3 mana to even more mana. I'm really not sure about it, and I think it's so strong. I'm at least testing it, but I'm like very wary about it, I guess.
It's good, trust me.
Okay, I'll see. I'm gonna test it, so we'll see. Let's go into our number 2 card, Jeweled Lotus. It's 0 mana, and it says it's an artifact. It says tap, sacrifice Jeweled Lotus, add 3 mana of any one color. Spend this mana only to cast your commander.
Yeah, I think a lot of people will be surprised that it's not our number 1. I think this card is phenomenal though. Like, it goes in practically in any deck that is looking to hardcast their commander. So basically every deck that's not Food Chain because those decks only cast the commanders after they have infinite mana. But other than that, probably some fringe corner cases, but you just should probably put this in your deck and cast your commander 3 turns ahead of curve. I don't like it with the fact that it increases the mulligan opening hand lottery, where like, oh, I happen to mulligan into like 2 more fast mana than you did, and now I get to do all of this broken stuff like already on turn 1 or 2, and that's why it's like we could have probably been better off without it, but hey, it's here. Probably not gonna get banned. So all those Godo and Gitrog players, enjoy. It's obviously very good when your commander is literally the combo piece, and but still, if your deck just is able to use just 2 mana from it, like if the 1 extra mana is wasted, that's still fine. I still think you should play this in like Zero or Jaleva or Kess, because 0 mana to add 2 mana, and probably your commander gives you some value. You should probably just put this in your deck and like get faster, consistent commanders, really good with wheels.
I'm really not happy about this card either. I really don't think it's going to break cEDH in half or anything like that, but I just think it's just another one of those cards that just creates non-games on turn 1 or 2. Someone just like slams that commander super early and it just runs away with the game. I'm just not a fan of that. I feel like some people have been suggesting that this is just going to buff all the non-partners and whatnot, but I think sometimes people aren't really taking consideration that this also is like really great with like Crom or Timna. It just helps get those ones out really early as well. Like just enabling turn 1 Crom is just great with this card.
Yeah, I've already like done like turn 1 wheel and I got a Lotus. I guess I'll cast Timna as well.
I feel like at least specifically for Timna Crom, like even if you draw this late game, I traditionally make a Crom very early, but I wouldn't mind just playing this and then using 2 of the mana at least to cast a Timna. Before I might be like a little more hesitant to cast a Timna because 3 mana is a little bit much for it, but now it just costs 1 mana and it feels great. With the direction of Jewel Lotus, Jeska's Will, and stuff like Fierce Guardianship, I honestly wonder about the future of many of these non-specific commander generals, such as like First Sliver and whatnot. For me specifically, for something like my Tasker build, I'm thinking a lot more of trying to focus a lot more on Tasker because of cards like this trying to really incentivize me to get my commander out earlier, and I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of other decks are going that direction as well.
This card saves you 4 cards from your yard with Tasker, right? Like 3 mana, and you get to sack this from your yards.
It's like 4 mana for Tasker. It's great, yeah. It can enable, like, if I have a fetch land and this, it's just like a turn 1 Tasker, and maybe turn 2 I can kneel form, get a Nezohal out.
Dude.
Yeah. All right, so let's
one thing
move
I
on
want to mention
our...
about Jude Lotus is this fact that, like, what I like about it is the fact that it incentivizes people to actually play out their commanders. So sometimes, a lot of the games end without any commanders being cast because, like, Storm or whatever is like able to, like, Thassa's Oracle, Consult, you just play them before you just cast your commander. Design like this incentivizes you to, like, hey, you actually have a command zone in this format. You should probably use it.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan too. I feel like sometimes with seeing a bunch of turbo nods, sometimes you see some games that are a little bit commander agnostic, but I feel like at least for Jewel Lotus, it kind of encourages you to care a little more like what's in your command zone, start utilizing that a little bit more. So the number 1 slot, we have Rograk, son of Rogai. I've never pronounced it, but okay. It's 0 mana for a legendary creature, Cabal Warrior. It has First Strike, Menace, Trample, Partner. It says it's a 0/1.
Yeah. Rograk is busted on multiple levels. I was probably like I thought it was like more likely for them to print some shit like Jude Lotus, but like I never expected them to print Rograk. A 0 mana partner is actually just insane. It alters how you can approach your deck building, because you now suddenly have a consistent access to a 0-mana legendary creature. Just like, the companions, when they were introduced, they kind of ended up warping all formats around them, and you started running cards like Mishra's Bauble in like half of the decks in Modern because you just had Lotus in the partner zone. And Roguerak's is similar, like having 0-mana creature basically in play every game allows you to run cards that like require a sacrifice of a creature in order to work. You now get to run stuff like Infernal Plunge and like actually feel good about it. And you also get the cast for free or choose both, like Jeska's Will and Fierce Guardianship. All of those cards are like available for you turn 1 and onwards. And Roguerak just by virtue of existing gives you that. And it's probably, and it's already like been brewed a lot, and it's probably going to be one of the fastest decks in the whole format in a turbo shell. Getting access to those extra rituals and consistent tutors like Diabolic Intent, you just get to go off, and you get to go off fast. Silas and Tymna seem to be like the two good candidates for Roguerak, but I wouldn't be surprised if there's some others as well.
Yeah, I think it's probably going to be the fastest deck in the format. It's basically you take a typical Grixis Turbo Nod shell, and then you have these like ultra other busted cards in there. Like you get Culling the Weak, Mox Amber, all this other fast mana to help enable a more consistent turn 1 or turn 2 Nas. What I'm a little bit worried about is, obviously, I don't think it really has a grind game, and so I think you're going to be somewhat forced to mulligan into some very proactive hands. Unlike maybe Tymna and Crom, where you could maybe lean a little bit more on Crom, just like, you keep all mana hands. You can't really do that with Roguerak.
Yeah.
I think you mentioned at one point that I think this is the Jeska's Will deck, and I've really been finding that the case. Like, you play this guy, you get all this mana, you Ancestral Recall basically. This is just such a great shell for Jeska's Will.
You can even run Jeweled Lotus with this guy, because you sack it once and Jeweled Lotus, you cast it again.
I think he's very unassuming though. He's a 0-mana 0-1. I never would have suspected this, and then River told me I was a dingus and showed me all these cards. I
was still working, and I went full ballistics when I saw the picture. I was like, what the hell are they thinking? It's like, this is like,
it looked like a Voltron to me. I don't know.
This like, you're almost like playing a different format with like different rules almost when you're playing with Roguerak. It's just fundamentally different to have a 0-mana creature available to you every single game.
Yeah, I've been playing a good number of the Grixis-based Turbo Nods list, and I think Roguerak is significantly faster than what we've seen before.
Yes.
I feel like it's
by a full turn or even faster.
Yeah, it's like a full turn or full turn and a half or something. Like it's very, very fast.
Yeah,
I struggle a little bit with it though, but
Yeah, the world is probably not gonna end. Like cEDH is probably not gonna turn into full Roguerak mirrors. That, like you said, it doesn't grind super well. And it's more like, it's probably the best environment for it is like Turbonos mirrors, where just by being faster and having like the early interaction from Fierce Guardianship and Deflecting Swat is gonna like give him the edge in those mirrors. But then like, if you have to start fighting in stacks, it's very valuable to have access to stuff like Tymna and Crom, which Roguerak doesn't provide very good grind on its own, although you do get to run some spicy stuff like maybe Skull Clamp. If you're partnering him with Silas can keep recurring either Spellbomb or Engineered Explosives. Interesting like design space nonetheless. Like, it's been, so many people have been brewing Roguerak and having a lot of fun, and like playing these 4-way Roguerak mirrors have been wild rides.
Yeah. One thing I'll suggest for everyone is that you guys should try the 4-way Roguerak mirrors. It's actually hilarious. I think I played with River. There's like There's like 3 turn 2 ad houses on the stack. They all got countered, and then River wheels me turn 1. It's whatever, but it's a lot of fun, I think. Okay, I think
that's it.
Are we done?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we're done.
Yeah. It's okay.
I think.
But we should probably do. I thought that we were still like doing an ending. You started.
Oh, do you want to do an? Okay. So what should we say for that?
Thanks for watching and see ya, suckers.
Please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share the video, do anything to spread the cloud. Otherwise, our editor won't be able to eat. Yeah. Thanks so much, and bye-bye.